All right, so let's move on. Next session, I'm really happy to have Andreas with us, and he is going to talk about diabetes and machine learning, and I'm really looking forward what you have to tell us. Andreas, take it away.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, everybody, for joining me today for me to talk about my project on how I'm using elastic machine learning and turning diabetes into what I like to call data beaties. Stick around. I'm here all week for the bad jokes. So what this is an update I did on a blog article I wrote a couple of years ago for the Elastic blog, and I wanted to just give a slight different use case for the Elastic observability stack. Yes, this still involves data, but not metrics and I/O and web traffic, RAM usage, CPU, stuff like that. This is about more personal data. It's about me turning all this data that I gather about myself into information. So first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. As I said, my name's Andreas Helmer. My friends call me Dre, so feel to call me that. That works too. I'm a husband and a father to a beautiful 8-month-old girl, so I'm a new dad, and I'll take every opportunity to show off my girls. And I'm a huge fan of Star Wars and Kung Fu and my bulldog. And I'm a product owner for the platform engineering team at AGFA Healthcare. So I deal with healthcare in a personal sense, in dealing with my condition of type 1 diabetes, and I deal with it on a professional level as well. So it's data and healthcare kind of go hand in hand with everything that I do. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story. It started about 15 years ago, and I started becoming very, very thirsty. I was about 20 years old, and it was like a thirst that you just couldn't quench. I mean, it was awful. I would drink jugs and jugs of juice day and night, and I would make never-ending trips to the bathroom. It was like clockwork. Every 2 hours, it was bad. It didn't feel like fun. I felt like one of those cartoon characters that was poked full of holes. I also got really skinny. I'm not as handsome as I back then as I was now, though I don't know. I still look pretty good. But I lost a lot of weight. At my lowest, I think I was just under 150 pounds, even though I'm 6 feet tall, which is 68 kilograms or 182 centimeters. But things just weren't getting better. I was starting to get blurred vision all the time, and I was at university at the time, and I would have to leave class 2 to 3 times a session to get more water, use the bathroom, and it was really impacting my ability to learn. And so I kind of knew that something was wrong. So on Wednesday, January 25th, 2006, I went to go see my doctor. But to be honest, I already kind of knew, like Dr. Google had told me more than enough already. And in the end, both doctors ended up telling me, hey, you need to go to the emergency room right now. You have type 1 diabetes. And for the next few hours, it was kind of a blur. I sat in my mom's van, and I called her, and I told her what the doctor had said, and I came home, and we both went to the ER together. The ER was packed. I remember this very specifically. But we didn't have to wait very long to get in. This was kind of serious then. I got some tests done, and I was sent home after receiving my first shot of something called long-lasting insulin. And the whole time I was sitting in the bed in the hospital, my mom was with me, and she's a nurse with 20 years experience. And I know she was trying not to look scared, but every once in a while I would see her wipe a tear away. And somebody like that, yeah, I know it was serious. It wasn't fun. So before I continue, I did want to say that there are generally two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. type 1, type that I was diagnosed with, is generally triggered by an autoimmune response, where your immune system kills the beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. It's usually triggered at a young age, so sometimes it may also be called juvenile diabetes. However, it can really happen at any age. There's also type 2 diabetes, which can be easily classified as high insulin resistance. The body still makes insulin, it just doesn't know how to use it very well. And there are definitely genetic factors associated with that too, but things like obesity and inactivity can definitely contribute to also getting type 2 diabetes. Type 2 is far more common than type 1. So let me get back to my my hospital visit. I came back the next day and I started learning how to manage my type 1 diabetes. Everything went by fast. I was sitting there for 3 hours and I learned about carb counting, insulin dosing, bolus ratios, basal rates, how to use all of the equipment. I was bombarded with a huge amount of data. And I had to take all that data and turn it into information so that I could keep myself alive, because this is something I have to do now every single day for the rest of my life, or until a cure is found. They always say 5 years, but that's a joke in the type 1 community. So I was hit with a lot of stuff that I had to do. And you know what? It was great. I was fine for years. I moved out to my parents' place. I got a bulldog. I got engaged to the love of my life. And the whole time, I was all about managing my data manually. I was doing the carb calculations in my head, writing down my blood sugar controls from poking my fingers, stuff like that. And it was okay until another date, August 11th, 2013. This was about 6 weeks before my wedding. And my fiance at the time and we went to the downtown jazz festival. And we sat there, actually we stood there, and I remember just turning to her and saying, I think my sugar's low, I don't feel well. And I took one step and then it was just nothing. I blacked out. This had never happened to me before, but I can remember a brief glimpse of me standing at line to buy some Coca-Cola, but that's it. It was a really bizarre experience. I still don't remember anything really that happened to this day, but I do remember waking up in the car, bright-eyed, bushy. I was like, oh, what happened? This is cool. But we were on the way to the hospital already, to the emergency room. And I sat there for a while. They ran some tests. And the emergency room doctor eventually recommended to me, he's like, hey, you should get an insulin pump, something that you can manage a little bit more, your insulin, versus taking individual shots every single time. Okay, all right. So I went and I got an amazing new endocrinologist. She's a fantastic doctor. If she sees this, she knows who she is, and you're amazing. And she got me started on continuous glucose monitoring technology and an insulin pump. Because the problem with conventional therapy is it's finger prick testing. So you do it every once in a while when you need to check. So you're this is the normal range right here, highlighted in green, between 4 and 10 millimoles per liter, which is approximately 72 to 180 milligrams per deciliter. That's a US standard in some other parts of the world, but here in Canada, we use millimoles per liter. So if you want to convert these two, just multiply by 18 real quick in your head and you're good to go. But this could be a great day. Everything's in range. My blood sugar tests are fine. Here at 1 o'clock, I'm reading at 7. This is fantastic. I've got excellent numbers. But it doesn't tell you the whole story because I have big gaps of space in between. This is where a continuous glucose monitor comes in. And they look like this. Little device that does a reading every 5 minutes. That's a lot more than doing it every few hours with a finger prick. And you get a lot more data out of it, which is fantastic. But really, I don't really want to sell you guys on CGM technology and all this stuff, because I want to talk about the numbers and the problem that I have. And so the problem with conventional testing, I get 6 tests, I get some good values out of it, but with a CGM, I get much more accurate values because I'm doing more tests. But there's a lot more that goes into this, like what I have to also remember what I eat, how I exercise, what my heart rate is doing. Am I drinking coffee, or am I taking other medications for a flu or anything like that? Pretty much anything can affect my blood sugars. And that's why CGMs are great, because I don't have to poke my finger 147 times in a day. And this runs day and night. Whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm jogging, whether I'm doing Kung Fu, it doesn't matter. It's always running. And it generates a lot of data. And you're probably all wondering, where does Elastic fit in? Well, that's what this conference is all about anyway, isn't it? So because I use Elastic at work, I thought, hey, we've got a whole bunch of log data that we're doing at work, and we're aggregating it into this diagnostic imaging system. Why can't I do the same for my own personal data? That should work, should it not? I know how Elastic works. I'm pretty darn good with Logstash. So let's think about how I can use all the different data sources that I have on myself, including my CGM, my unhook myself, my insulin pump here, and my my looping device, which I'll get to in a minute, and combine all that data. My Apple Watch, of course, as well, and combine it all and see what kind of information I can get out of it. So I'm using, to manage my insulin, I'm using an app called Loop. And this is a DIY solution on creating an artificial pancreas. It's really cool. I could talk for hours just about this. Dexcom is the CGM sensor on my arm, and that sends information up to what's called Night Scout. It is an online API web portal that gathers all of the information from my Loop and from my Dexcom, and combines it there for reporting purposes. But I have other sources of data as well, like Google Fit for heartbeat information and steps and stuff like that. And I also have a tile attached to the little device that works with Loop here. And I thought, hey, tile also has the location services built in. What else knows location? Elastic knows location services, knows how to use location data. So I thought, okay, let's combine that all together. So at home, I have my Logstash instance, and I've signed up for an Elastic Cloud account, a really cheap one, just basic of the basics, no redundancy. This is just for a personal project anyway, and it only runs me about $20 a month, so it's fantastic. If you want to try it out for yourself, I highly recommend it. And then with a little bit of Perl scripting on my home server to do some of these transformations, I can get data out of it, because I didn't want to wait for the insulin and pump manufacturers to go and create all of this for me. No, I want this right now. I want my data right now. I want to be able to get information out of my data right now. And it turns out that I totally can. I can get so much more data and so much more information out of this. I can graph my glucose values. I can see how much my carbs are being absorbed. I can see what I'm eating, and even use little emojis to categorize my food. I can get heartbeat information. I can see what my pump and my loop is doing automatically and making adjustments for me. So I can do all of this inside Elastic, which is fantastic. And I've got a dashboard that I'll show you in a moment. But I know the title of this is machine learning, and well, yeah, I can definitely use this data with machine learning too. So this is an older screenshot just because I really like it, and it tells everything I need to tell. So this app here is what monitors my CGM sensor. And I thought, okay, let me ingest a bunch of data into Elastic, and I'll do a forecast on it. And I did. And so what I did is I waited a day before the forecast. I stopped ingesting any data into Elastic, and I said, okay, let's see how accurate this is. So I picked a random time. I kid you not, this was a random time. And I looked at the prediction, and it said, okay, at this point in time, I should be at 5.9 with an upper bounds of 13. Okay, so I went on my phone and I checked. I was at 6 at that moment in time. I thought, that's cool. And this was my first point, my first random point that I had picked out. And I thought this could be, this is way too cool. So I was like, okay, what I'm doing here is actually worth something, because this can help me figure out when I'm falling in and out of range of what is considered normal for me using the Elastic machine learning, what's it called? When it falls outside. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't want to, anomaly detection. There it comes to me. Thank you. So it's really, really cool stuff. And so what I want to do now is show you this demo dashboard that I use on a regular basis. So here you go. This is my Elastic cluster. And you can see I've got all of the information graphed for me. I've got my CGM values listed here. The last few days have been a little rough for me, so I'm showing the last few days, and I know I'm falling outside the range. That's just type 1 diabetes. Welcome to my world. So ideally, I should be within this range down here all the time, but lots of things can affect it. So last night was a bit rough as well. My daughter was up quite late. So anyway, it's really, really cool stuff. And I've got those refreshing automatically. So if you see it go gray every once in a while, that's what it's supposed to do. I can see how often I'm falling inside the ranges, and I can do the machine learning thing. So this was actually really cool, because last night I actually dropped below my normal range. I was at about 3.8, which is on the lower side at 5 a.m. And the Elastic machine learning said, hey, at 5 a.m., you're usually not this low. And it's true, I'm not usually this low. And it gave an anomaly score here of 29. And this is something I can now investigate and figure out why. I know exactly why. It's because I give myself insulin here, and it was probably a little bit too much, but it ended up being okay. So, but Elastic machine learning picked up on that, which is just so cool. There's also the tile, so I can get geo information listed here. This is just a test, because I don't want you guys seeing everywhere I've been for the last little while. But I can also see how much food I'm eating, what my carbohydrate consumption is, what kind of food I'm eating, all sorts of really, really neat stuff. And then here is like heartbeat information, which I'm gathering from Google Fit. So really neat stuff that I can do. And these are all various data points or data sources that I'm gathering into one place. There's no product like this on the market right now that I can do this with. So this is, for me, is really valuable information, just to see it all in one spot. And that's what I really like about this Elastic solution. Yeah, it's pretty cool. In fact, you might have noticed that when I was hovering over, that I like Elastic so much that I made this entire presentation in Canvas. So what you've been seeing down here is a little, oops, let me click on that. This 11.3, this should actually be a live data view of my current blood sugars. I think I forgot to turn on auto refresh. That's okay, so this might be a few minutes out of date, but this is how cool I think this is. Everything I've done here is all Elastic today. So really, in summary, what this machine learning thing can tell me is either one, I'm pretty good with my blood glucose control. Either I've got pretty good, consistent good control, or pretty consistent bad control. Because machine learning tends to work best when you've got good patterns, from what I've found. That, or it's magic. I don't know. Probably a bit of both. But in the end, what I'm getting is I'm getting more data, and I'm turning it into more information that I can actually use personally, and that affects my everyday life. Because if I don't monitor my blood sugars properly, and I don't take care of myself, then I can end up back at the hospital, and I can end up passing out at the jazz festival, and that's not something I want to do. So I'm using this data to help improve my life and improve my blood glucose control. It's pretty cool stuff. So coming up on 20 minutes, so I want to thank everybody for allowing me to share my updates on my project. I encourage you to read my original blog. It's very similar to what I showed here, but without all of the extra data from like my watch and my tile and stuff like that, and the food intake. So this was a really nice update to be able to share with everyone. If you want some of the source code that I have for my Logstash configurations and the Perl scripts that I wrote, they're available on my GitHub. I haven't committed anything in a little while, so there's definitely a few bugs that I need to push up. But if you want to contact me, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much. I'm pretty sure my 9-year-old nephew has more followers than I, and he doesn't even have a Twitter account. Anyway, feel free to reach out to me. And I've recently started hanging out on the Elastic Slack channel, which was also really, really cool and a great place if you ever need to ask the community for answers, for questions. So it's really nice. So I'll be sticking around the conference for the rest of the day. Feel free to message me here as well. And yeah, at this point, I've got nothing else to say. I'm happy. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was an amazing presentation. Thanks a lot. I learned a lot, not so much about the Elastic Stack, but a lot of things about the rest of it.
It's a simple use case for Elastic, so but that's why I like it.
Yeah, that depends on the point of view, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think we have I found one question carefully hidden within the very, very positive reviews of all of this by Mark Warren, who asked, like, great job, how do you get the diet data? Maybe that's something you want to dive a little bit more into.
So the app that controls my insulin pump, the Loop app, it allows me to input when I eat something, and so that's all being gathered there, and then being sent up to Night Scout and pulled down. There are some other services. I think there's, I don't remember what it's called. Fitness Pal, I think, that tracks information. I think they have an API, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to go double check. But I looked at a bunch of different places, and if there's an API for it, pretty sure you can get Logstash to ingest it. So that's the cool part. But yeah, the food information I input manually from what I still see. So there's still some manual work that I have to do, but the algorithm that controls my pump does most of the rest.
Awesome. All right. Again, it's really hard to figure out if there's a question or people are just praising your presentation. I'm not really sorry for that, so I think we can cope with this.
Cool.
I don't see any other Q&A. Yeah, and you said you did the whole presentation in Canvas. Was that just
I did.
Like to get a first feel how it works, or like how did you like it?
I like Canvas, and because I remember I'm going to one of the Canvas presentations on how to use it, and I thought, okay, this looks really, really cool. And I thought, okay, I can do this too. And in fact, I geeked out so hard that I took almost every single field and a piece of text that you see here, and I put it inside of an Elasticsearch index, and I'm actually just querying that index to get this information out. So it's like if I go to here, come on. My cloud cluster crashed earlier as well. So I can see I'm putting all of the different bullet points in just here, just some of the headings I'm not putting in, but I'm pretty sure the heading here is, it's the title field inside of my Diabetes presentation index. So I like it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I don't think you can go more elastic than that, so that's
no.
Really impressive. There's one more question by Bruno coming up in the chat. What product do you use to capture your glucose level? I think I lost it. Maybe we probably already mentioned it.
Yep. So there's the app that I'm using here that I showed here. This is another one of those DIY apps called Spike. However, I do have to say that Dexcom is also available, and they have their own app, but it doesn't allow me to do some of the things that I like doing in this app right here. So I'm all about DIY and open source community, so I try to stick to that as much as I can.
Yeah, super impressive. Let me take one last look, like between the brace. Maybe I find something. If not, we'll probably let you off the hook and
Thanks.
enjoy the wonderful guitar background in your video session.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a ton for the session. I think that was really informative. Lots of Elastic technology. Really nice to see. And yeah, looking forward to your next canvas training then, I guess.
Yeah, I'll try and make another. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right. Thank you. And see you again in a few minutes.